If you've had the realization that your life could be so much better, but for some reason or another it isn't going the way that you want it to be, this video is for you, because I used to be you. I was stuck overthinking, feeling lost, and tired of feeling behind. In many ways, my life wasn't going in the direction that I wanted it to, and I knew that things weren't just going to change by themselves. I had to do something about it. So in this video, I'm not going to give you some motivational crap. I'm going to reveal to you the actual things that have helped me to level up and grow, and focusing on the major things. If right now you're in a period of life where you feel stuck with a less than ideal life and you don't really seem to be going in the right direction, this video is going to show you the major things that'll help you to grow and level up past that point. The major determining factor in the way that your life plays out and the direction that you end up going, it just comes down to your thinking. If you just focus your attention on changing this one thing, which is your thinking, the direction of your life will completely shift. An easy way to illustrate this point is if you imagine swapping brains with someone who was very successful in your eyes. Say you have some goal and you're trying to make a lot of money or just build a lot of muscle, have a lot of success with the opposite gender or whatever your goal is, right? If you were to swap brains with someone who was very skilled in that area, say you're trying to make a lot of money, so you swap brains with someone with Elon Musk, whether or not you respect the guy or not, it doesn't matter. Say you were to swap brains with someone of that caliber, an entrepreneur who was just really good at making money, right? If you were to swap brains with that person, no matter what circumstance you're in right now, you can imagine it'd be pretty hard for you not to make a lot of money after a certain while. Just having and swapping brains with that person, because they have a lot of knowledge of how to make money and just a lot of skills and whatnot. They have a different level of thinking than you do, and they'd be able to reach whatever goal that you have a lot faster. If you imagine someone who's really out of shape and they swap brains with some fitness expert who's really good, had a lot of knowledge with health and how to exercise and just had different level of thinking, if they were to swap brains, it'd become almost impossible for that person not to increase and just upgrade, level up their level of health. Now obviously we can't swap brains with anyone, but the point that I'm making is that if you can change your level of thinking, if you can change the way that you think, your life and direction of your life can change dramatically. This is why people will spend so many years and so much money investing into their education, because when you get an education, it changes your level of thinking, it changes the way that you think about the world and the things around you, and allows you to become more valuable, allows you to do more things. You can have two people who have the exact same circumstances, say they were born in the exact same place, born to the exact same parents, and all that stuff was the same. But if you change their thinking, one person thinks that in some sort of way, the other person thinks in a different way, their lives and the direction that they end up going is going to be completely different. And I want you to understand that it's your thinking that is the major determinant in the way that your life turns out, and it's not your circumstances. A lot of people get this wrong, and they think that it's their circumstances that are the major determining factor in how their life turns out. An analogy I like to use is that your thinking is like the set of your sail. You can imagine you're out at sea on a sailboat and the wind is blowing in some direction. A lot of people will think, okay, because the wind is blowing in this direction, I have to go this way. It could be a way that you want to go or a direction that you don't want to go. Instead of just changing their thinking, changing the set of the sail and adjusting the sail that they go into a different direction, they just don't consider that. They just go with where the wind blows. They go in whichever direction the wind is blowing them, rather than adjusting their sail so they can go in the direction that they want to go. Now, I'm not trying to imply that circumstances don't matter at all. Of course, there are some people who just have certain advantages over some other people. There are, of course, people who have circumstances which are more advantageous than others. But the point that I'm making is that it's not the major determining factor in the way that your life turns out. Because you could have the best circumstances, but if your thinking isn't aligned to the direction that you want to go, or in a good direction, essentially, you're just going to squander your opportunities, as opposed to someone who may have less than ideal circumstances, but because their level of thinking is different, they're able to rise up and go into a direction that they want to go. An example of this might be the trust fund babies who were born with a lot of money, pretty much with the golden spoon, and pretty much, to everybody else's standards, have the best life and the best opportunities available to them, yet they squander that, and at the end of their life, they just feel really depressed, they end up going broke, and life just turns out in being a really shitty situation for them, versus the person who was born in poverty but ends up having a different level of thinking. They're able to rise up, make a lot of money, have a lot of happiness, have an incredible social life, and just everything, or their life turns out being way better than the person who had, to everybody else's standards, a better advantage. The major point that I'm trying to make is that it's your level of thinking that determines the way that your life turns out. It's not your circumstances. Yes, circumstances may have like some factor in like where your starting point is, but if you change your level of thinking, if you change the set of the sail, you can go in a direction that you ultimately want to go. One of the important things, though, is to use what you've got. A lot of people who may not have the most ideal circumstances, they think to themselves, oh, well, because of, the circumstances that I was born into, because I was born in this country, because, I was born to this family, because, I don't have, the opportunities these other people have. I just can't have like a life that I want to. The best piece of advice I can give you is just to use what you've got, because if you blame everything else, if you blame the family you were born into, if you blame the country that you were born into, if you blame all of the circumstances, all of the resources that you have available to you, saying that, oh, it's not good enough, if I only had this thing, then maybe I'd be able to, do whatever. If you blame everything that you've got, you're not going to be able to do anything. Use the resources available to you, use what you have, and, level up from that point. It doesn't matter what this person has or what that person has or whatever else is going on. You just need to focus on using what's available to you to go in the direction of life that you want. It's really important to learn to use what you've got rather than, being in this fantasy world and just imagining, oh, well, if things were different, then I'd be able to like have the success that I want. I remember in the area of fitness, there were some things I was learning, like, okay, if you eat these certain foods or if you go to the gym or like do blah, 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 you'll be able to like level up your level of fitness or health in general or whatever. And I think to myself, oh, well, if only I had enough money to go to the gym, or if only I could like afford some of these foods, then I'd be able to level up my life. But that was the wrong way of like thinking about it. Instead, what served me far more was to instead think, okay, what can I use right now? Like, okay, I may not have access to all the foods. I may not like be able to access the gym right now, but what can I use that's in my environment to at least level up from the place that I'm at right now? I may not be able to buy all the healthy foods that I want, but something that I can do, I can just choose to selectively eat the foods that are like more aligned to my fitness goals and my health goals. I can't afford a gym membership right now, but what I can do some at-home workouts, do some push-ups, pull-ups, or just like lift some dumbbells. Use what you have available to you and don't stop yourself from growing just because your circumstances aren't ideal. The next thing that was really helpful to understand is what leads to failure and what leads to success. The way that I like to think about it is failure is a few errors in thinking repeated daily, and success is a few simple disciplines practiced on a daily basis. When a lot of people think about success and failure, they think about it as this like big event, like, okay, this person got successful because they just did this one thing, and hey, if I could do this one thing, then I could, be successful. Or when it comes to failure, okay, this person failed because, it was just this big error that they made, and that's the reason that they're a failure. Most of the time, I'd say the majority of cases, that's not what it is. Most failure doesn't come about because of this one big mistake that someone made. It comes about from errors in thinking that were repeated on a regular basis that eventually led up to this big event happening. Or say for a success, people see these overnight successes and think, oh, well, they just did one thing and that's the reason why they got successful. No. A lot of the time, it's because this person practiced some simple discipline and kept going for a very long period of time, and eventually they got to this point where, everything exploded and now the results started coming in. For example, if someone becomes a really big influencer, it's not because they just recorded one video and, that's the reason why they blew up and, now they have all the success. It's because they just did those simple disciplines, like they kept recording videos and like doing trial and error, learn some things, and eventually, they had that one video that just blew up, they went viral, okay, now they're a really big influencer. Or say, for example, someone becomes very successful in business. It's not because they just did one thing and, it just blew up. No, it's because they did a whole bunch of like simple disciplines, trial and error, figured out what worked, figured out what didn't work. And eventually they got to that point where something worked and then bam, they make a lot of money, have a lot of success, and people say it's a overnight success. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is that success and failure is an accumulated thing. So for example, if it's in the area of health and fitness, if you make sure that you're eating right, if you make sure you're getting enough sleep and you're exercising, over time, if you keep practicing those simple daily disciplines, you are going to have success in that area of life. It's not going to happen in just like one, automatic snap of your finger, then you like have the results. No, it's going to be the accumulated daily disciplines that lead to that success. If it's failure, it doesn't come about by just like one error or mistake that you make. It's because you continually make these errors in thinking that you decide, what, I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to, eat the right foods. I'm not going to, get adequate sleep. And over time, that accumulated error in thinking is going to lead you to failure in whatever that area of life is. What makes this so insidious is that on a smaller time scale, like if you just look at the day and, say for that day, you didn't do the disciplines, you didn't eat right, you didn't exercise, and you didn't get enough sleep. If you just look at that day, and you look at the results and the things that happen, it doesn't seem that bad. Like, okay, sure you missed a workout today, sure you didn't eat right, but things haven't changed that bad. Maybe your physique is still all right. Your health didn't go down and, things just aren't that bad right now. But you can't just look at the day. You can't just look at the time or the small time slot. You've got to see the bigger picture. You've got to see what this accumulated activity is going to eventually lead to. If you don't read a book today, if you don't meditate, if you don't go out and socialize, in that small window of time, it's not going to seem that it made that much of a difference. But if you keep doing that over a big enough time scale, what that's going to lead to is either a huge amount of failure, or if you practice the discipline, a huge amount of success. I really want you to understand this concept, because for a big amount of time, a big mistake that I was making is I was relying on, this one big event to happen and, that was going to lead to my success, instead of focusing on doing the simple daily disciplines that would eventually lead to success, and making sure that I'm not making those errors in thinking that would lead me to a level of failure that I didn't want in my life. The last point I'll make when it comes to success and failure is that a lot of the time, to get successful and the disciplines required to become successful, a lot of the time they're very easy. And what I consider easy is something that you can do. Say it's exercising and you're trying to become more fit. I'm just using that example, but you can apply it to anything else. It's very simple to exercise every day. Just do, say, 30 minutes to 1 hour of exercise every day. It's very simple to, choose to eat the right food instead of eating all this junky food. It's very easy to choose to, okay, I'm going to go to sleep at this time so I can wake up and get my full 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's very easy to do, but at the same time, it's very easy not to do. It's very easy to just say, okay, you know what, I just don't feel like exercising today. It's very easy to say, I don't want to go to sleep today, or right now I just want to stay up and, watch some stuff, or, do some other stuff. It's very easy to say, you know what, I'm just going to eat this junk food right now. It's not going to hurt me that much. It's very easy to do, and it's very easy not to do. And on a daily basis, you have to choose which option you're going to go for. Are you going to go for the easy of doing the discipline, which is ultimately going to push you up to a higher level in life? Or are you going to choose the easy, which moves you down and pushes you closer to failure? The next thing is when it comes to responsibility. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people have a negative association when it comes to responsibility. They associate it with taking fault for something, or, having to do something that they don't want to. But that's not the way to think about it at all. The truth is, if you become a more responsible person, people start trusting you more, you feel better about yourself, you have more self-respect, your mental health goes up, and you just become a more powerful individual. A lot more good happens from taking responsibility rather than bad. And specifically what I'm talking about is taking full responsibility for the way that things affect you and how your life turns out. It's easier to explain responsibility by explaining its opposite, which is making excuses and blaming other people. Basically, when you make excuses, when you blame other people or other things, you're taking the power away from yourself. You're essentially saying, I don't have the power to change the situation. I'm giving the power to someone else, and now it's on them. For example, if you blame your parents for the way that your life is turning out, you're pretty much saying, okay, well, my parents are in control of my life. They're the reason that my life is, or the direction of my life is going this way, and I have no control. That's essentially what you're saying. If you blame the economy, if you blame whoever's in the political office, if you blame, AI for, whatever it is, if you blame these other things, you're putting the power in those things. Now, certainly these things may affect you. Certainly they your circumstances, they do have an effect on you. We're not saying, okay, all of those things don't matter. But the thing is, when you take full responsibility, you choose not to blame those things. You choose not to blame your parents, the country that you're born into, the circumstances that you have. Instead, when you take responsibility, you say, I have the power. I have the ability to change and the way that things are going for me. It's like these outside things may have some effect on me, but I'm not going to let that stop me from, getting the things that I want in life. When you take responsibility, it's such a powerful thing because it puts the ball in your hands rather than having to rely on someone else to fix things for you, someone else or something else. For example, when I was a lot younger, one of the, areas of tension between me and my parents is when it came to chores. I just really didn't like doing chores, things like doing the dishes, taking out the trash, and just cleaning around the house and whatever. And it was because I was constantly putting the blame on something else and something else that's outside of me. Oh, it's not even my fault that, I have to live here. Why do I have to do the dishes, or why do I have to take out the trash? I don't even create the majority of the trash. I don't create the majority of the dishes. Why should I have to clean my room? No one else is coming in here. I was essentially just creating all of these excuses, and it created a lot of tension because, they'd constantly have to tell me exactly when to do it. And, maybe I'd be playing some games or something, and I'd be interrupted, and it just created a lot of tension essentially. But once I started to take responsibility for it, I just started thinking about it in a different way. Instead of making excuses, instead of putting the blame on someone else, I put the blame on myself, took responsibility for it. I was yeah, I may not want to do this right now. I may not want to clean my room. I may not want to do the dishes or take out the trash. But you know what? If I do it, I'm actually going to feel a lot better because, one, I'm not going to have to be yelled at. I'm not going to have to be interrupted when I'm trying to do something. If I just take initiative and do it right now instead of having to wait for them to ask me, my life is going to be better. Their life's going to be better. We're going to get along more. Things are going to be a lot better. I probably wasn't thinking about it in that way at the time. Mostly I was just thinking about it in the way, I don't want to be yelled at right now, so I'm just going to do it. I know that probably seems like a trivial example, but that's where I kind of started to understand the power and importance of taking responsibility. When you take on more responsibility, it gives you more freedom. It's the opposite of what a lot of people think. People think, okay, if I take on a lot of responsibility, of course I'm not going to be more free because I'm going to be bogged down by all these tasks. But the truth is, when you take more responsibility, you actually get more freedom from it. When you're more responsible, people start trusting you more. You start trusting yourself more. You have more self-respect. Other people respect you more. There's so many benefits that come from being responsible, and it is a major determining factor in the way that your life turns out. It kind of goes back to my other point when it comes to your circumstances and not blaming, your circumstances for the way that your life turns out. Instead, what you want to do is take responsibility for that because you're going to be able to use what you have effectively and move on and grow to a better place from that situation. Now, in a practical sense, if you want to become more responsible, there's a few things to focus on. One, don't make excuses. Don't play the blame game. Don't put the power in anybody else's hands. Put the ball in your hands. Make it so you are in control, essentially. If there's something in your life that you're dissatisfied about and you feel like someone else is in control of it, or the ball is in somebody else's hands, find a way to put the ball in your hands. Don't ever put the ball in somebody else's hands. Make sure that you are responsible for it. And this doesn't mean that you can't rely on anybody else to help you or anything. This is a mistake that I made as well. I pretty much made it so where I didn't want to get help from anybody else because I just want to do everything myself. That's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is putting the ball in your hands and saying, okay, the ultimate result of whatever happens in my life and the direction that my life ends up going, essentially, I'm going to take the blame for it. It's my responsibility. I'm not going to blame anybody else. I'm not going to make excuses for, whatever this external thing is. Whatever happens, it's my fault. It's my responsibility. I have to take credit for it. If I trust somebody to do something, but they don't end up doing it, I'm not going to blame them. I'm going to blame myself and say, okay, what is my responsibility in this? What is my role? Okay, maybe I should, learn from this and understand, okay, maybe I shouldn't trust this person for the specific thing. Maybe I should do it myself or get someone who's more trustworthy. If I'm in an undesirable situation, I'm not going to look at something else outside of me and say, okay, well, it's this thing's fault. That's the reason why I'm in this situation. No, I'm going to look back to myself. What could I have done differently earlier to not have been in this situation? And what can I do now to get out of this situation and go in a better direction? By not making excuses, by not playing the blame game, this is a very easy way to become more responsible because you put the ball in your hands and you don't put it in anybody else's hands. You see yourself as the source of the problem and you see yourself as the source of the solution. The second practical way, if you want to become more responsible, is just being more prepared and anticipating problems. Essentially, there are just patterns in life and you're going to pick up on these things. A lot of it is going to be intuition, but essentially, if you anticipate something that's going to happen and that you're going to have to be prepared for something, don't just procrastinate. Don't just wait until the problem becomes big. do something to prepare for whatever that thing is. I know this may sound vague, so like I'll give you an example. Say you want to, have a certain amount of money invested by this certain amount of time. Okay, instead of waiting for, some big event to happen, or like putting it out into the future, essentially, what you can do is like start preparing right now. Like start figuring out ways that you're like going to like figure out your strategy essentially, and like start taking action on that right now. You can start a new discipline today to take advantage of compound interest. You can start doing things like building the habit of budgeting, or like doing something to like build more income for yourself, like whether it's a side hustle or a business, whatever it is. Basically, when you anticipate problems and you prepare yourself from them, not only do you avoid the downside of those problems, but you're also able to take advantage of the opportunity. If you know a really important test is coming up that accounts for like the majority of your grade, instead of doing what everybody else does and like wait till the last minute and then like start to cram a like whole bunch of information into their head, which it just doesn't work as effectively as most people think. Instead, if you just prepare yourself by like studying, like say like 2 weeks before, and like just making sure that you get all that information in like a way that makes the information stick longer, the results that you get are going to be so much better compared to the people who just like waited to the last minute. Just by being a little bit more prepared, a little bit more diligent, you're able to get way better results. So when it comes to responsibility, take full responsibility for the way that your life turns out and just the way that things affect you. Put the ball in your hands. Don't play the blame game and like put the blame on other people or other things. Anticipate problems, be prepared for them, because it'll save you so much headache and allow you to take advantage of opportunities that other people are going to miss out on. The last thing that I put is that you need to start winning now. What I mean by this is that you need to start putting in action and like working towards your goals, or just like working towards the better life that you want. Start taking action right now so you can start winning. The reason I say this is because of positive reinforcement. If you can take some actions now and you get some results, even if it's not like the end result that you like ultimately wanted, but you just start getting some results, some small win, the trajectory that sets you on is just like so impactful. And the thing is, the earlier you start, the better it's going to be for you. Positive reinforcement is kind of like compound interest. Like if you start right now, even if it's a smaller amount, that's going to compound into like such big results later on. If you start a simple health discipline, like deciding to work out or just eat a little bit better or go to sleep on time, just by doing that small little thing, that gets you a very tiny win. And what that does is it makes it so much easier for you to do it in the future and have better results later down the line. In so many areas of life, things would be way better if you would have started earlier, but you can't go back in the past. So the next best thing is to start right now. When it comes to an area of your life that you're trying to level up, or say you're trying to build a skill, if you start right now and you start getting like some wins, which, a win to me is like just getting any result, you're going to be at a far better advantage than like the people who just haven't done anything. The earlier you start, the better things are going to be for you generally. Say for example, something that's really important to you is like finances. Like it's important to a lot of people. If you start right now, since since the age of 13, you just like started focusing on your finances. Maybe you couldn't earn a lot of money or anything, but you started focusing on that area. You started reading a whole bunch of books and like learning how to, tackle this area of like life, which is called finances. If you started earlier, you can imagine it'd be so much easier for you to become wealthy and like basically have that level of success in your life when it comes to finances if you started earlier, versus if, you took that same person and they started from the age of 40, and only from the age of 40, they like started taking it seriously. You can imagine if you just start earlier and you start focusing on leveling up these areas of life from an earlier age, that's going to set you at a much higher advantage. Now, of course, we don't want to blame our circumstances on like where we are right now. If you haven't started from a young age and like focusing on an important area of life, don't blame yourself, don't kick yourself for it. Just like start right now, because like the best time to start was yesterday, but all we have is right now. You can't go back in the past. Start right now. If it's an important area of your life that you're trying to level up, start focusing on it right now. Start taking action. Start getting those small wins. Start building that positive reinforcement. Because if you keep doing that, it's just going to keep getting easier and easier for you. The last thing that I'll say is just do the best that you can. I understand that everybody comes from a different situation, different background, whatever. We're all starting from a different point, essentially. And one of the mistakes a lot of people make is that they compare themselves to like a different person, you know, especially like seeing someone on social media. They compare their lives to theirs, and then they say, oh, I'm inadequate because I don't have enough money as they do, or I don't have the skills that they do, or I don't have the physique that they do, whatever it is. Don't focus on like somebody else's life. Focus on your life and focus on doing the best that you can. If it comes to fitness and, you know, you see someone talking about advice, oh yeah, you should be, you know, exercising for 5 days a week. If you can't do that, if the best you can do is like only doing 2 workouts and like every single day, or if you can only do 2 workouts every single week, and that's the best that you can do 2 workouts a week. Start from there. Do the best that you can. Don't put the stakes so high, or don't like set the bar so high that you can't even like complete it, and then you end up like feeling really bad about yourself, because then that's going to lead into like a spiral where you just like start feeling really bad about yourself. You don't end up like getting any results because, you know, you're just beating yourself up constantly. This is a mistake that I made for a while. Just do the best that you can. Start from wherever you're at. If all you can do is like, you know, half of, you know, what somebody else can do, that's fine, as long as it's better than what you've been doing before. Hopefully you don't get stuck there. Eventually, you know, you're able to move it to from like 2 workouts a week to 3 to 4 to 5, and then, you know, you're able to focus on something else like eating better, or, you know, I'm focusing on like health and fitness, but, you know, any area of your life that you're trying to like level up and whatever, just start from where you are, start from where you can, do the best that you can, level up and increase the quality of your life, improve your life, go in the direction that you want to. Because at the end of the day, it's your life, it's nobody else's. You are in control. You have the say in whether or not you do something or whether you don't do it. Even if the person beside you is able to do better than you and get better results, don't be discouraged by that. Don't get jealous. If you can do the best that you can do, that's enough. If you see someone else doing better than you, use that as fuel. Use that as inspiration for you to like do better, even if it's like kind of like dark and like you're thinking to yourself like, oh fuck, this guy could do like way better than them. Even if that's like fuel for you to like do better, use that as fuel to like do better for yourself. If you got some value from this video and you're interested in leveling your life up more, you can click the first link in the description and join our Discord. It's a community of guys who are dedicated to leveling themselves up and just like living a better life. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and click the first link in the description. Remember, if you want your life to change for the better, it starts with you.